Overwatch is one of the most badly fumbled games ever released, and yet somehow they've turned it around from hot garbage to mixed garbage. This year they finally accepted defeat, knowing that the swathes of people lost to Marvel rivals could never be regained, so they did the only thing they could.
Don't worry, loves. Here.
That's right, for when you know that you cannot give the Gooners what they want and China is only too happy to oblige, make sure you scoop up the gays, the furries and the degenerates such as myself, drop 5 heroes all at once in the most YOLO move ever known, and the player count surged in February for an official relaunch where Overwatch admitted that the sequel was a complete scam and dropped the number 2 from the title. But they've also been releasing more heroes including Sierra, Get Shit On and now Demon, which is 8 champions out of the 10 that they promised would arrive this year, so who knew that keeping your promises actually finds favour with the players? Now, I'll be honest, I'm just here for the cat. Not because you can carry people with your tractor beam and watch McCree do or Cassidy, whatever, do his high noon. It's to swipe at people with those extra sharp claws and then dive into enemies before plopping them into the toilet bowl of Rialto, or the angry furnace hemorrhoids of King's Row. Demon dropping into the mix is to lure the Gundam fanboys into the fold, of course, but effort has been made by the devs with expanding the lore where that cute little hamster is actually a mass murderer, and it's the Mecha Squad to the rescue! But despite the heroes, the lore, the map reworks, many players still find themselves in the position of telling Blizzard to get fucked. And here's why, because Overwatch did not start out as a desperate free-to-play cosmetic cash grab where they bump up legendary skins to a mythic marketplace and then slide from mythic to unique ultra skins, and that is amidst a barrage of crossovers that you'll never see me fall for. Well, that one could have fallen out of a loot box. Back when this game cost money and your wallet remained mostly intact, except for buying it again several times so you could practice Genji on alt accounts without your friends screaming in your ear to stop throwing, it had 50 million players, won Game of the Year, we got esports where the London Spitfires team didn't even speak a word of English, the World Cup age-restricted fan art that defined a generation, yes sir, champagne was flowing from the heavens, it was a wonderful time, even the cinematics were ramping up in quality to the point where it seemed like the Overwatch universe was ready for a Netflix series, hey, even a Hollywood movie adaptation. But once Blizzard had everyone's money, they needed more, and loot boxes alone weren't going to cut it. Before BlizzCon went into a coma and everyone realised there's nothing to look forward to except reforged trash, Overwatch was becoming stale in 2018, but 1 year later, BlizzCon 2019 revealed Overwatch 2. A graphical overhaul was incoming, co-op hero missions that were touted as highly replayable due to hero progression, talent trees. I mean, we're talking chaining Tracer's pulse bomb so it could take out half a city block. Genji's sword started to resemble something out of Warframe. Heroes would be able to wombo combo, but the main cinematic trailer bringing the gang all back together again had everyone hyped beyond belief, but most importantly, Overwatch 1 players could PvP alongside Overwatch 2 if they didn't care about the bells and whistles of PvE. But that's when the future fell apart, because while this so-called sequel was being built in a cave with a box full of scraps, the real Overwatch was a rotting corpse left out in the sun. Echo arrived in 2020, yippee! The same old events though were recycled again and again before Papa Jeff Kaplan left in 2021 after almost 20 years of service at Blizzard. Then 1 month after that, they announced 6v6 was dropping to 5v5. In 2022, they had to admit that Overwatch 2 wasn't ready and pulled a "trust me bro, here's the first part of Overwatch 2 and we'll give you the rest later. Here's a new mode, we promised you'll love it, it's genius. We give Baymax a big block to push around the map and we call it push." I didn't love it. Overwatch 2 is now free to play and they removed the loot boxes. God be praised! But at least you still had Overwatch 1. Except by June 2022, Blizzard finally confirmed that this wasn't happening either. So the whole promise of these two games coexisting with each other was another goddamn lie. So everyone was funneled into a game that was starting to look like a frozen shite was being presented to us in order to hide the smell, then polished in front of our very eyes with a battle pass slipped in for good measure. If you didn't hate Overwatch enough, Blizzard were determined to speedrun the entire player base into mass down voting them when they started adding the heroes to the battle pass. Yes, you had to unlock them by leveling it up. So you want to play Ramatra, son? Level 45 for you, broke boy. Or you could buy the premium version to get him immediately. I'm sure that decision wouldn't blow up in their faces.
Wrong.
But this company wasn't even close to done with disappointing the player base. Couldn't matter that much, surely, because the PvE mode was coming, right? But it wasn't coming, and in 2023 they cancelled the entire reason for Overwatch 2 even existing. No big PvE mode after all, only to have the gall to release 3 story missions for Overwatch Invasion for $15 with a replayability factor of 0. Unless masochism is your thing or you fancy a battle pass, in which case the morbid curiosity would cost you much less. So you can imagine that when Overwatch 2 came to Steam, those 3 garbage missions arrived with a bait and switch free-to-play cosmetic cash grab, and of 100,000 Steam reviews that came in, only 9% were positive. Yes, 63,000 of those may have been from Chinese players who could no longer access Blizzard services, and that's because NetEase did not have their agreements renewed, but over 80% of the other languages were negative. So this wasn't just some kind of prejudice review bomb, this was dissatisfaction across the board, appropriately expressed. In 2024, they finally listened, and the heroes were put back in the playable roster where they belonged instead of in the shitter pass. After 2 years of insisting that this was a 5v5 game, or as I like to call it, may the best tank win, 6v6 saw a little 2 in each role experiment in the same year, and in February 2025, the arrival of perks changed everything. Playstyles for every hero. Good grief, were the developers finally listening? Of course they were, but also by absolutely no demand whatsoever.
Season 15 is the return of loot boxes.
March 2025, in came 6v6 open queue as another temporary experiment. Except people actually played the hell out of it, so Blizzard extended it and basically never took it away again. In April, we got Stadium, which was hailed as the third pillar of the game alongside quick play and competitive, but in reality, to me it just plays like a badly modded workshop version of the game, and oh boy did all the creators jump on it while opening the valves of every copium canister left in their cupboards, enjoying the variety that was on offer, and I don't blame them, but personally, I hated every second of that mode and pretended it didn't exist. It was like an all-year-round Lucio ball to me, but I know I wasn't alone, because they recently announced that all the future plans for this golden mode, including new maps and heroes, are dead and buried. So apart from seasonal balance changes, Stadium's grand expansion plans are now effectively kaput. But circling back to February this year, where the number 2 was dropped from the game name, Overwatch was finally back, and the game is currently in a pretty good state, if I do say so myself. Competitive remains a decent experience, if you define decent by peeling your own balls like potatoes, but the popularity of DPS, well, that remains a problem. Kudos to the devs though for trying out some 6v6 role queue with 1 tank, 3 DPS and 2 supports. This allowed the DPS to swap to tank to help out the team, but of course they usually didn't, and many hated this experiment. Then in came a classic 2 in each role, so 2-2-2, unless there were not enough tanks queuing, in which case they reverted back to what you didn't even ask for, more of that 1-3-2, and a miserable tanking experience, making people queue tank even less. And yes, that makes it a frickin' mess. The future of Overwatch seems to be on track for holding a reasonable player count, as Steam numbers don't even account for those playing on Battle.net, and a significant portion probably still play on console. May God have mercy on your controllers. As for me, I shall continue to enjoy this game every so often, because getting into Diamond is a very difficult and complicated process that needs careful management of your positioning, awareness, and a good stack of Doritos to keep you company. Take it easy, catch you on the next one. Later.